AutoCAD has a number of nice commands for modifying drawing objects, plus it has a number of nice ways for selecting objects that you want to modify. You can notice in the ribbon in the Modify panel a number of the Modify commands, plus if you click on the little down arrow to the right of the word Modify in the Modify panel, you can see some other Modify commands. Let's first take a look at the Move command. You can first select the Move command, and whenever you select most Modify commands, you'll get what's called a pick box. The pick box allows you to pick on an object that you wish to modify. However, you can also select a number of objects at the same time without having to click each one individually using a number of different options. One way of selecting multiple objects to be modified at once is by using the window option. You can press W to access the window option, or you can just click in a space to the left of the objects you wish to modify. So in this case I want to move this circle and this pentagon. So I'm going to click somewhere above the circle and to the left, making sure I'm to the furthest leftmost point of the pentagon also. Now after I click that first point, AutoCAD goes into what's called the window selection mode. So if I just drag this window around the polygon and the circle, it will select those two objects. Notice if I come on out and also cover a bit of this rectangle and this line that I have drawn, because I'm not completely surrounding them with this window, they will not be selected. So let's go ahead and click this second point and see what happens. So you see only the circle and the pentagon are selected. That is, once they're selected, you see them as appear as a dotted object. So once we have the object selected that we want to move, we're going to hit enter, and then AutoCAD will ask for a base point. That is, some point of reference from which to move these two objects from. I'm just going to click on the top of the pentagon, but you could pick virtually anywhere. And then as you drag your mouse, you'll see the objects being moved as you drag. So once you have the objects moved to where you want them to go, just click the left mouse button, and there they are now moved. Okay, so let's use the Move command again, and I'm going to move both the circle and the pentagon, but also the two rectangles. And this time I'm going to click a point to the right of what I want to move, except I'm not going to get all the way to the right of this rectangle. And by starting at the right and dragging to the left, I get what's called a crossing box instead of a window. Notice when we drag, or if we start from the left and drag to the right, we get a solid window box, but if we start at the right and drag to the left, we get a dotted crossing box. So everything this crossing box touches will be selected to be modified, in this case using the Move command. So again, once I've selected them, they become highlighted. I click a Move base point and then a second point where I want these things to be moved to. Another way of selecting objects with many of the Modify commands is using the Fence option. So now, instead of clicking a point, I'm going to first enter F for fence, and now it will allow me to draw what's called a fence. And anything this fence touches will be selected for modification. And then once I hit enter, you'll see everything the fence touched was selected, but not the line, because I didn't touch the line. I surrounded the line, but because I didn't touch it, it's not selected for modification. And again, once everything's selected for, in this case, the Move command, you can select or hit enter, then select the first point, and then select the second point to move these objects. There's also a couple of other options you can use with the Modify commands. One is the last option, and another is the previous option. So in this case, for this example, I'm going to draw another circle. or make this a very small circle. But let's say I want to move that last thing I drew, that little circle. So now when I use the move command, I can hit L for last, and AutoCAD will automatically select the last thing I drew, in this case the little circle. So once it's selected, I can move it. Also, let's say we want to move something, and we've selected things to move, and we've moved them, and they're not quite where we wanted them to be, and we want to move them again. So instead of selecting them all again, we can use the previous option by inputting a P, and it will select the previous set of objects that we modified. In this case, we've modified with the move command. Now let's take a look at the copy command. The copy command works a lot like the move command. You select objects to copy, and you click a base point just like you were going to move them. And then when you click a second point, the object is copied instead of being moved. You retain the original plus have a new copy. Plus you can keep making copies as long as you want, just by continuing to click to place the duplicate objects wherever you want them to be. When you're done copying, hit enter, and that will complete the copy command. Next, let's look at the rotate command. With the rotate command, of course it's located in the modify panel in the ribbon. With the rotate command, you can, as the command describes, rotate things. Let's say I want to rotate this rectangle right here, and I want to rotate it around the left corner of this other rectangle. So I've selected the rectangle, and once it's selected, I hit enter. Then AutoCAD will ask me to specify a base point. So I'm going to click at the lower left corner of this other rectangle as my base point, and then I can drag the rectangle around to a desired angle if I would like, and then left click the mouse button, or I could actually input a specific angle through the keyboard. In this case, I'm going to use 45 as my rotation angle, and there you see it's been rotated 45 degrees. Also, with the rotate command, you can use it to align objects at one angle to another object that's at a different angle. So let's say I want to align this rectangle here so that it's parallel or lined up with the edge of this pentagon. So I'm going to select the rectangle. Of course, I'm using the rotate command. And then for the base point, I'm going to select the corner of the rectangle. And then instead of specifying an angle or dragging it into place, I'm going to enter R, and then for the reference angle that it's asking me for, I'm going to click one end of the rectangle again, which was my base point, and then I'm going to click the other end of this edge of this rectangle, and then AutoCAD's going to ask me for the new angle, so I'm just going to drag and click on the adjacent edge of this pentagon, and now you can see those two objects are lined up perfectly. The mirror command will allow you to copy and flip something at the same time. Let's check it out. It's up in the modify panel. And again, I'm going to select all these things to be mirrored. And once you have things selected, AutoCAD is going to ask you for a first point of the mirror line. In this example, I'm going to click right on the edge, this right edge of this line, this vertical line, to construct my mirror line. And then AutoCAD will ask, do you want to erase the original objects or the source objects? In this case, I'm going to say no. But let's say I did want to erase the old objects. Let me undo this. And let's try the mirror command again. So I'm selecting the objects, hitting enter, picking the 2 points of my mirror line. And then this time I'm going to say yes to delete the other objects, and you can see it just flips what I had selected. When you use the mirror command, you don't have to necessarily select on an edge. You can leave a gap if you know that you need a 1-inch gap in between what you're mirroring and the new object. You can leave or come over a 1/2 inch and draw your mirror line. So there'll be a 1/2 inch on the right and a 1/2 inch on the left of the mirror line, which will give me a total of a 1-inch gap between the two objects, like so. At this point, go ahead and draw a few things and experiment with the move, the rotate, the copy, and the mirror commands. And also experiment with selecting objects to be modified with those commands using the various options such as the window, the crossing, and the fence.